Hi, I'm Paula Roy and welcome to my kitchen here in Wellington West. On behalf of the Wellington West BIA, I've got another great virtual Taste of Wellington West segment to share with you today. It's going to be a terrific cooking demo and I hope that it's going to inspire you to create something new in your own home kitchen. Now, I love Thai food. Lots of people love Thai food, and we're so lucky to have quite an abundance of great Thai restaurants and takeout places in Wellington West. But sometimes it's really fun to play around with those flavors at home and see what you can come up with. And so I created this soup recipe. I call it my 10-minute Thai soup. And unlike some recipes that tell you they're 10 minutes, but you have to do 10 or 15 or 20 minutes of prep before the 10 minutes of cooking starts, this one actually takes 10 minutes from start to finish. There's a minimal amount of chopping and just a few ingredients, and it creates this delicious, flavorful soup. So whether you're looking for something quick to make while you're working from home, or perhaps something that you can pack and take to work for lunch in a thermos or reheat at work, this could be a really good option for you. And I find that kids' palates are really expanding these days, and Thai tends to be a flavor profile that a lot of them enjoy as well. So you might find this is a great family-friendly meal. So I'm going to start with my pot here, which is on my little induction burner, and I've added just a splash of vegetable oil. So I'm going to turn it on. Helps if you plug it in first. There we go. And you want about a medium-sized pot, and you want to place it over medium heat. So that's what we'll do here. There we go. And I have taken the liberty of doing just a little bit of chopping so that you don't have to watch a too long video. And so what I'm going to add to my pot are some shallots, and you could use regular onions instead. You want to cut them quite small so that they'll cook quickly. And shallots are great because they're fairly mild in flavor, so they don't tend to overpower a dish. And some people ask if they're the same thing as scallions. I hear that a lot, and no, scallions are green onions. So shallots are a bit different. So into the pot they go. And then I've got some minced ginger, about a teaspoon or so. And a little tip for you is I love to buy knobs of ginger a couple times throughout the year and peel them and grate them and freeze them in zipper storage bags. And you can just open the bag up and crack a corner off. It'll melt in or thaw in minutes, and put the rest of the bag away. So I've got some grated ginger here. And you'll notice that ginger's in a lot of Asian dishes. It's just one of those quintessential flavors that we associate with that cuisine, and I just love it. And we've also got some thinly sliced farm fresh carrots. And these are all ingredients that you'll easily be able to find in the neighborhood. And some thinly sliced zucchini as well. Now this recipe is pretty flexible. If you prefer, you could use red pepper or green pepper instead of the carrots or zucchini, for example. You could even use cauliflower. So just kind of go with whatever works for your taste buds. So we need this to cook for about 2 minutes. That's one of the longest steps in the entire soup process. And that's to soften the vegetables, because unlike soups that boil in a broth for a long time to soften the vegetables, this one doesn't do that. And that's part of what gives it such a great fresh flavor, because everything is just cooked enough to be enjoyable, but not overcooked. And I'm sure perhaps you've tasted soups that sometimes the vegetables lose their flavor because they've just been cooked for too long. So that's not going to be the case here. So I'm just going to let that do its thing for a minute. And we're going to add some chicken broth and some chili garlic paste as soon as the vegetables have softened. Chili garlic paste comes in a jar like this. It's often referred to as sambal ulek, and it's really, really delicious. If you don't have that on hand, or if you prefer, you can also use sriracha, which a lot of people have in their kitchens these days. They're pretty similar in terms of the intensity of the heat that they bring, which is not too much. I put in about a teaspoon for this soup. It makes 2 servings, so I find that's about the right amount. But if you like things really hot, by all means add more. Okay, our vegetables are just about softened. So I'm going to add in my chicken broth, 1.5 cups. And I mentioned earlier, this is a flexible recipe because you can use different vegetables. You can also use different broth. If you prefer, you could absolutely use a vegetable broth. You could even use water if you don't have any broth on hand. And the protein that we're going to add later is going to be shredded cooked chicken, but you could use cooked shrimp. You could have no protein at all if you prefer. I think thinly sliced cooked pork or beef would probably even be good in this soup. So I'm just going to increase the heat a little bit. And now I'm going to add my chili garlic paste. And I'm going to give the soup a little bit of a stir. And what I'm watching for is the chicken broth to just barely start to come to a boil. And at that point, I'm going to add in my shredded chicken. And while I'm waiting for that to happen, we're going to talk about the next ingredient after the chicken, which is coconut milk. And of course, you can use canned coconut milk. There's lots of brands out there. They're pretty similar in terms of flavor. Some of them are marked light or L-I-T-E, and they tend to be a bit thinner in texture. And if that's something you like, then terrific. If not, you'd want to go for the ones that are not light and they're just a bit richer and creamier. But I have another great tip for you. Instead of a can of coconut milk, because we only use 3/4 of a cup, so then what do you do with the rest of the coconut milk, right? So I like to buy these packets of powdered coconut milk, and then you can just make up exactly the amount that you need for your recipe. So I find that really, really helpful. So I've got about 2 tablespoons of coconut milk powder here, and I've got 3/4 of a cup of hot water. And I'm just going to whisk those together really quickly. And if you were looking for that light version or something that's perhaps not quite as rich and thick, then you could absolutely use a little bit less powder or a little bit more milk, whatever your preference is. And if you want it extra rich and creamy, then definitely add more. 2 tablespoons is only a portion of the packet. So that's dissolved really quickly in the hot water. You can do it in room temperature water. It's a little harder in cold water because it just doesn't dissolve as easily. So I've got some boiling action going in my pot now. So in goes my shredded chicken. These were some chicken breasts that I cooked up for dinner the other day, and I had 2 left over, 2 small ones. It's also a great way to use up leftover rotisserie chicken if you buy a cooked chicken at the store. So into the pot it goes. And I'm going to give that a stir. And it's just about done. It looks so, so, so good. I can just smell it already. I can smell the ginger and the chili garlic paste. So now I'm going to turn the heat back a little bit because we don't want to boil the coconut milk. We just want to warm it, and in it's going to go. There we are. And I'll stir that again. And as soon as I see the coconut milk starting to steam a little bit, then our soup is done. It's that simple. And I'm going to add, once the coconut milk is steaming, one last ingredient, and that is a teaspoon of fish sauce. I like to look for gluten-free fish sauce so that I know I have the right kind on hand if I'm making a gluten-free recipe for someone who's not gluten tolerant. And a small jar is good. Do keep it in the fridge once you open it. They tend to lose their potency after a while, so that's why I recommend a smaller one. And another important tip is not to add fish sauce to a mixture that's boiling. 2 things are going to happen. One is you're going to get this big cloud of fish sauce steam, so you're going to lose some of the flavor that you want to have in your dish. And also, you as the cook and even your home environment might smell kind of fishy, and some people find that unpleasant. So the tip is to take it off the heat and then add the fish sauce in right at the very end. It's not going to cool your dish down because you're not using very much. So I can see my coconut milk is steaming, so I'm going to turn the burner off. And now I'm going to add in the little bit, 1 teaspoon of fish sauce. Give that a stir. And that's it. How easy was that? And it's just going to be so, so, so flavorful. So as a sort of pre-garnish, I'm going to add the juice of 1 lime. And I really like these wooden citrus reamers. You can get them at most kitchen stores. It's a great way to get the maximum juice out of any citrus fruit. And in fact, this lime is so big, I think I'm only going to use a half of it because I've got about 2.5 or 3 tablespoons of lime juice in there now. And that's another great sort of Asian Thai thing, is having fresh citrus, especially lime, as one of the flavors that pops. So now I've got my bowls all ready. And I'm just going to ladle this up. And you just want to make sure you try and get a little bit of everything. Some of the vegetables, some of the chicken, obviously lots of broth. And like I said, this makes 2 servings. You can absolutely increase the recipe if you want to make it for a larger audience. And it does reheat really well if you want to make it ahead of time. Just as before, try not to bring it to a boil if you can possibly help it. And I like to serve this soup with a wedge of lime, in case people are big lime fans like I am, and with a sprinkling of coriander leaves. And one more tip, there's great plastic herb stores where you can keep it in the fridge for a really long time. So if you like to use fresh herbs and you don't want them to go to waste, I recommend those. And we'll grab our spoon, and our 10-minute Thai soup is ready to enjoy. Thanks for watching this video. If you make this 10-minute Thai soup at home, please be sure to post a photo and tag Taste of Wellington West, and you'll be entered into a contest to win great prizes. And check out all the programming at wellingtonwest.ca/taste2020. Thank you.